Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's realistic review in which we are taking a look at the American SB2C-1C, the Helldiver 3.3 battle rating. This plane stands for shenanigans. It is a bomber, but it's not really a bomber, is it? It is more of a support fighter with a back gunner. The amount of matches that I threw off my bombs before I even got to any target is amazing, and I think you should actually throw them off at the beginning of the match, because then you can climb slightly better and get to even more altitude. This plane does start with a bomber spawn, and it is a reasonably high bomber spawn, so it doesn't climb too good, but yeah, it's a great experience. People still don't expect it, even though this plane is as old as War Thunder, well, almost. I'm not exactly sure when this plane was added, but it is there. It has been there for a very long time already. But this plane stands for shenanigans. It is quite maneuverable in the flat turn times. Rolling is alright when you don't have any bombs, but it is not fantastic compared to many fighters. But all in all, this is a plane to have fun in. This is, yeah, well, I can't speak enough about it, man. The Helldiver is just a lot of fun. You don't expect to get the highest number of kills in a bomber usually, but with this plane the possibility is definitely there with a little bit of luck. Now this plane is strongest on the small matches, because then the bomber spawn will be most effective and you will get the biggest bang for your buck. On places with an air start and on the bigger maps it is a little bit less advantageous when it comes to that, because it really doesn't climb too good even without the bombs. So on larger maps the fighters do have the time to catch up to you, and you usually have to you usually fly in straight with some fighters into the mix, and you don't have that big advantage that you have on the smaller maps. But all in all, this is still a lot of fun, and against many of the boom and zoomers you will even outroll them. So there is that. Now let's get into the details. This plane at 3.3 battle rating is not a fast plane, that is for sure. The maximum speed at sea level without WEP is 377 kilometers an hour, with WEP 393. At 4,500 meters you can take her up to 321 without and 330 with, and finally at 6,500 meters you can get her to 246 both with and without WEP. These speeds are an indicated airspeed without mech. Now the top speed in a dive is also very limited, with 623 before she redlines and 710 before she rips apart. Now this plane does have a great air brake, as it is a dive bomber, torpedo bomber, however you want to call it, and the air brake is very efficient, so that can come in handy when you want to overshoot somebody, although that's not often very necessary. But a great air brake for in the lower ends of the dive, when you're trying to chase somebody and you don't want to rip apart. You usually see them rip apart, especially when they overshoot, especially with Russian planes. That is funny with the Yaks, for example. But yeah, control stiffening in this plane starts at around 450. Second big tick in the aileron compression comes at 550. And I mean, the rolling is not great to begin with, but when you have fighters going fast and compressing, you can still do your tricks, especially with that air brake. It can be a lot of fun. Stall speed in the plane is 90 kilometers an hour, which is alright, especially for a bomber. Firepower is good. You do run with two 20mm AN M2 cannons with 200 rounds per gun. You also have a turret in the back with a double 7.62mm Browning machine gun, 1000 rounds per gun. This plane can be equipped with 2 times 250 pound bombs, 2 times 500 pound bombs, or 1 time 1000 pounder. You can put torpedoes on her, and you can equip her with a mine. Now the ammo loads on this plane are very good for the guns. And well, the bomb loads are nothing to write home about, but there is a nice mix there with a mine, torpedoes, and different setups for bombs. which makes it quite versatile. I think this plane can be a beast in ground RB. You know, I don't play it, but I speak to a lot of people who do in my squadron, and this plane is very versatile when it comes to that. The cannons can wreak havoc coming from above on vehicles, and the bombs can be nice. You can take this plane into naval with the torpedoes, so there is a lot of things you can do with this plane. So good firepower. The belts in these cannons are quite decent. Even the default belt is useful with a belt equipped with the high explosives fragmentation incendiary shell and an armor piercing tracer shell. So it's 50-50 on both of those. That is not a bad belt at all. So it starts good to begin with in this plane. A less stock effect, let's say that. Universal belt has 2 AP tracer belts and 2 heavy shells, sorry. The ground belt runs with 3 times armor piercing tracer and 1 heavy shell, and then the air target shell has Jesus Christ, I'm mixing things up today. What is wrong with me? It must be the heat. It's quite hot here in Holland. The air targets belt has 3 heavy shells and 1 AP tracer shell, and then last but not least, the stealth belt is equipped with heavy rounds. So just that. So that is all useful. It can all be used. It is all effective. There is nothing that should not be used or something. So there is that. It's just your personal preference. I used air targets for this run out. Now the performance in this plane, the acceleration in a straight line is average. In a dive, it's actually good. I guess the weight of the plane, the initial dive speed is not fantastic, but when you go into a dive and she picks up some speed, it's actually quite good. Up until the red line, of course, then you need to get the hell out. The elevator control stays functional in that dive, so you can definitely pull her out of that dive. That is not a problem. This plane is built quite sturdily. The energy retention in this plane in the horizontal is only average. In the vertical it's actually bad. It doesn't have the greatest engine on her when it comes to this battle rating, so yeah, you do lose a lot of speed in the vertical. In the horizontal, with a decent turn rate, good with flaps, it is not too much of an issue when you lose speed, because this plane does pull quite nicely on the elevator in a flat turn, so there is that. And these flaps, man, they only rip off at 710 plus. So I tried to dive with the flaps on, and the flaps, the plane broke apart before the flaps ripped off. So they are quite nice, and that goes for that air brake as well. The climb rate in the plane is bad though, and although she starts off with a high bomber spawn, on the bigger maps the good climbers will definitely catch up to you. And that is not good. They will be faster there, so you have to be careful then with your shenanigans, and maybe wait a little bit if you want to use her as a support fighter. She's best equipped for the smaller maps, and the maps where there is an air start for fighters is also not the best. But yeah, you can't have it all, right? You can't have it all in a Helldiver, otherwise everybody would be flying this plane, and there's already enough people flying this plane. It is excellent as an interceptor against bombers, for example. There's a lot of uses for this plane. That's why she's so versatile. It's great. The turn time I already mentioned. The roll rate is below average, especially it is bad over the top when you go over the top. But all in all, when you look at the average bombers, this is one of the top performing planes, isn't it? It's quite nice. It's a bomber, but it's not a bomber. So you have to abuse that air start and let the shenanigans ensue in this plane. You just gotta go out in this plane and have fun. You can also throw bombs. Yes, there is that, as I mentioned. It is a possibility. Or torpedoes or mines. Overall maneuverability is above average, and for as bombers go, it is not bad at all. Not bad at all. Quite nice. Overheating is not an issue in this plane. There is some overheating with web, and if something does overheat, it is the oil. But all in all, I did not experience it as an issue in this plane. You can easily cool it off, and you really need to abuse the web to get it to overheat. So there is that, not much of an issue. Durability in this plane is decent, can take a hit or two. Nothing spectacular, nothing extreme, but she's alright. And she's definitely nice in a dive when it comes to that. With flaps and the air brake, that durability is awesome. Repair cost in the plane. She has a 2,405 Silver Lion repair cost, which is at this battle rating about average. Sit at a 3.3 battle rating. There's better, there's worse, but this one sits about in the middle. The rewards in this plane, you have a 272% research point modifier and a 180% Silver Lion modifier. The research point modifier is average at best, and the Silver Lion one with 180% and a 3.3 battle rating is bad. It's one of the worst I've seen. So yeah, this is not a Silver Lion, a money maker. And it is not great at research point collection either, but that is compensated by the fact that this plane is very versatile. You can use it in pretty much any setting: naval, ground RB, air RB. You can use this plane pretty much everywhere. It has a role to fill there, and there is a lot of shenanigans to be had in this plane. As a bomber, there is still tons of people who don't expect anything when they see the SB2C pop up. They don't feel any danger. They don't think you are a danger often. Of course, pilots who flew a while, when they see this plane above them, they will keep in mind that this is actually a support fighter that is quite nimble for as support fighters go, as bombers go that have forward-facing guns, and that it is extremely dangerous in the hands of a good pilot. So you always have to keep an eye on an SB2C or a Helldiver when you see one coming. Of course, when they come up close, you know which version it is, but when you see one coming, you have to keep in mind that it is very possible that they dive on you. And their guns very efficient, very good guns, and you gotta be careful with this plane, man, let me tell you. Now, the roles this plane can fill, of course you can bomb a base with it, but this plane is not built for that. It is a CAS plane, a close air support bomber that can be useful in many roles, as I said, and she can also be used in the role of support fighter. You can take her into many modes, as I also said before. Naval, ground and air RB are all very viable in this plane and a lot of fun. And that is the main thing that I wanted to mention when it comes to this plane. This plane is fun. You can go for the shenanigans, you can have fun, you can be the unexpected high flying plane that comes down on people and wreak havoc on the enemy team. 2 kills and a bomb on something is always very possible. If you want to keep the bombs on, if you want to go more for the support fighting role, you can throw them off when you spawn, and just forget about throwing off the bomb somewhere, getting something with that, and just focus on your support fighter role, which is also you know, quite alright, and the ammo load is sufficient for some ground pounding as well on soft vehicles, you know. So all in all, this plane, yeah, I really enjoyed my flyouts in this plane again. I had some good results in this plane, better than in some fighters actually. Hey guys, so here we are after the match. Now, the 1C Helldiver 3.3 battle rating is an awesome little bomber, very versatile. You can take her into multiple roles, as I said a few times before already. Naval, ground, air RB, all great. She can do her part. There you have great guns in the smaller maps. This is a very dangerous plane in the support fighting role. She will always be above people on smaller maps. On the air spawn maps and the bigger maps, you have to be a little bit more careful, because you do not have the advantage that you get from the air spawn so much on those maps. The fighters will catch up with you in the climb rate, because he doesn't climb that great. That is that. All in all, guys, a fighter, a bomber that I can definitely recommend in whatever role you want to play with her. I play her as the support fighter, and I had tons of fun. This plane guarantees shenanigans. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, Become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.